Podcast. I'm Menace, one of your hosts, and I'm flying solo today because Flash is out of town. He is, we couldn't quite coordinate. He's in Philadelphia, and it's hard to coordinate from Seattle and Philadelphia, so we had a little snafu with getting our recording time together. So, flying solo this week, and I have a couple notes from him on our main subject today, so you guys can look forward to a little flash commentary later on as we get into our main subject, which is... we have Final Fantasy cards to talk about! Yeah, there's so many new cards with cool flavor that I think are worth discussing, so we'll get into that. But this is the episode that you're gonna check out if you met me at MagicCon Chicago. So welcome to the show, everybody. If you'd like to support the show, you can find us on YouTube, where you can like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more notifications. Supporting us on YouTube, 462, already doing so. So let's get that number up to 500. Almost there to that half a thousand. I can do math. I went to grade school. You can also support us on Patreon. Well, before that, you can support us on all major podcasting platforms as well by making sure you subscribe there. Leave a comment on, if you can, on your podcast platform of choice. Leave us a 5-star review. Make us look super duper cool. Because you know I'm going to look super duper cool at MagicCon. If you met me there, did you see that sweet crop top I was wearing? Hell yeah! You can also support us on Patreon by becoming an official Pepperhead. By becoming an official Pepperhead for only $3 a month, you get to support the show and have your name turned Dr. Pepper Red on the Discord server. You can also support us at the $5 a month tier, the Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead tier. And then you can take a step up, take a leap, support us for $10 a month at the 2-liter tier, where you get early access to our Card of the Week videos. And you support the show extra a whole lot, and you get 2 free entries into each of our bi-weekly giveaways, which will be next week, where we'll be probably giving away something cool that I picked up on the floor at MagicCon Chicago. Not the literal floor, but I mean, you know, like the show floor. They got vendors, they got cards, they got cool merch, they got all that stuff. So we'll see what I get for next week. Before we get into that, I know last week I kind of gave a list of decks I was taking to MagicCon, and I was going through and I was like, man, I have a feeling that I just want to play Mona Lisa's Snake Circus. And so I also printed off Hapatra. Hapatra will be coming with me to MagicCon, and all the decks that I will be bringing. So I've got Hapatra 1. I've got The Gang Rages Harder Than Ever 2.0. And that's a Storm Force of Nature deck. The Gang Goes to Tournament, Shalayan Halar. The Gang Jams a Wandering Archaic. That's Helga. We have The Gang Sees Red with Ashling. And The Gang Wins Unexpectedly with Xeris, the Writhing Storm. So I'm super excited to jam all these decks this weekend. Find the Mountain of Dr. Pepper, and you will find Menace of the MoxStars podcast. Oh, yeah. All right. So this past week, well, a few days ago, we started seeing cards leak from Final Fantasy. First, we saw the face commanders for these pre-cons, and then then they had a live stream where they started showcasing some of like the cards that are going to be in the main set, and then also Cloud and Sephiroth from the starter decks. Like the new version of whatever starter decks they're planning to release alongside this set. So the big thing here, and the most notable thing, it was also a big shock when they announced this a long time ago, but it's now staring us right in the face. This set, in its like the standard set itself, will be standard, Pioneer, Modern, Legal. So take all the design with like a grain of salt. It's not built for Commander. It's not built for cEDH. So it's like, if we find some gems, it's really cool, right? But more than anything, this is just a cool, flavorful set that I know Gavin Verhey, who is the lead designer on this set, has been talking about for literal years. We had him on the show almost like 2 years ago now, right? And when we sat and we talked to him off the record, at that time, he was just like going on and on about how much fun and how cool this Final Fantasy set was going to be. Didn't give us really any details on cards or whatever, but they definitely, this is a passion project. This is like something that he is a big fan of, and all the team, like the entire team who was working on this, was like dedicated to making this like an accurate representation of the characters that we're going to see. So today we're using Mythic Spoiler for viewing the cards. Magic Spoiler wasn't really showcasing them or whatever. So let's start with the face commanders for these decks. All right. We have a Naya deck. So Naya guy gonna do. You know what it is. Naya guy gonna do. And then you got a Mardu deck with Terra, Herald of Hope. The Naya deck is Cloud. So hell yeah, brother. You have a Bant deck with Tidus, which is super cool. Final Fantasy X is like one of my favorite Final Fantasy games of all time. And then you got Y'shtola, Knights Blessed. So that is an Esper deck. Let's start with Cloud, X-Soldier, 2 and a Naya, so red, green, and white. Legendary Human Soldier Mercenary. A 4/4 with haste. So it's 5 mana, 4/4 with haste. When Cloud enters, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to it. Whenever Cloud attacks, draw a card for each equipped attacking creature you control. So it wants you to go sort of wide, so it's contained. This is not a cEDH deck. We're not going to see this pop off or anything like that. Then if Cloud has power 7 or greater, create 2 treasure tokens. While this might be cool, and all of these decks, it'd be super cool if they're all built to be like to play against each other in a very balanced fashion. I do think that this is a very contained commander. There is no blowing up with it. You can only really get the payoff in combat, and the payoff is potentially multiple cards. That's a great payoff, right? More information means you have a better chance of winning the game. But then if Cloud has 7 power or greater, you create 2 treasure tokens. That's just not going to push you that far ahead. Like, yes, you might be able to get Cloud to 7 power with the first equipment you put on him, and then yeah, you're generating 2 treasures every turn. Then it might add up to something, but there's no ward, there's no hexproof, there's no any sort of protection. The cool thing is it does have haste. So haste is super underrated. If you haven't heard my stance on that, here it is. Haste is probably the most underrated keyword of all, because in Commander, there are 4 turns. So you play a creature, it sits there, has sickness. You have 3 other turns that happen before it even gets back to you. So when it gets to turns 3 through and beyond, haste only gets more and more valuable, because you're not going to have as many turns to act with that creature. So putting something down that doesn't have haste means it has to go around. Everyone else gets a chance to win the game before you do. Haste is pretty cool. So Cloud seems fun. It's definitely a build around. That's usually what happens with all these Naya decks. So it's a build around. We have Terra, Herald of Hope, Mardu deck, legendary creature, Human Wizard Warrior, a 3/3 that has Trance. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill 2 cards. Terra gains flying until end of turn. Whenever Terra deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 colorless mana. And when you do, return target creature card with power 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This is familiar. Mardu has done this before, I think. It just feels a lot like Alesha. And it is less mana restrictive. I think Alesha is as split color pips, so it's not super limiting, but it definitely does require colored mana. having this be 2 colorless mana, is a benefit, but then again, you are restricted on mana just in the cost itself, right? It's color intensive to get out on the battlefield. So again, another very, very much contained commander that can like do things, go wide, reanimate some stuff. Sweet. Creature card with power 3 or less. That is probably the strongest line of text because like you can get some pretty, honestly, there are some pretty nasty creatures out there with 3 power or less that are mana value 7+, you know, like so you can get some pretty nasty things out of the grave with this, or like something that's power is 0, but you know, like, or it's an asterisk, so it's 0, and then you can pull it out of the graveyard, and it's massive. So Terra has some like ceiling potential. I just don't know if one attack trigger or one combat damage trigger is going to be enough to really break the game in any way for you. We have Tidus, Yuna's Guardian, Bant, so 1 of each, green, white, blue. It's a 3/3 that's a human warrior, and it says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control onto a second target creature you control. Now here's where it gets cool. You have Cheer, which I love. That is it's a move in Final Fantasy that raises the stats of all of your party members. So whenever one of your creatures you control with counters on them deal combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and proliferate. Do this only once each turn. So wow, right? Like, let's say you get a flying counter on something, right? Whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card and then proliferate. So proliferate all the +1/+1 counters, all the flying counters, the haste counters, whatever. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may move a counter from target creature you control, so you can move that flying counter that you just proliferated so everything maintains flying over the course. Luminous Broodmoth can be crazy in this, I think. But yeah, you just get some I think you get some really cool, creative deck building with this. With how many, keyword counters, how many +1/+1 counters, how many, probably not like -1/-1 counters or anything like that, but you do get some really cool opportunities to have a go wide strategy and for Tidus to literally be your party leader. So I think that in itself is a really, really cool commander build around. I don't see this being cEDH viable. None of these really are. So that's a little disappointing, but not the end of the world. More than anything, this game is about having fun. It's the difference between a 4 and a 5, right? It's like you play a 4, you're having fun, man. You're chilling. A lot of people don't see it that way. They're like, oh, you're playing a 4. Like, oh, you try hard. It's like, no, I'm normally a cEDH player. I often take this far more seriously, and I will show you what a 5 looks like if you want me to. Let's just play the game. I'll give you a 4. Let's just have some fun, man. That's what Tidus is to me. You can turn it on and turn it into a 5 and play competitively. You can pretty much do that with any deck. But then you also have Y'shtola, Knight's Blessed, 1 in an Esper. So this one is 4 total mana, a cat warlock and it's a 2/4 with vigilance. At the beginning of each end step, if a player lost 4 or more life this turn, you draw a card. Ooh. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, Y'shtola deals 2 damage to each opponent and you gain 2 life. So I don't really think there's any way off the top of the dome to break this, but this is definitely like a commander-centric control deck that it has you can create a draw engine out of it, right? Once each turn, potentially draw 4 cards in each turn cycle. Super rad. That's better than any of these other commanders. And then it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, doesn't matter if it's reduced cost. We learned that with things like this town ain't big enough, and the where it reduced costs actually check for the greater mana value on the stack, so you can then still get the trigger to deal 2 damage and gain 2 life. So I I like that. It's maybe the only Esper commander outside of Marnius Calgar that I like. So I think it's a really cool build around as well. All of these seem incredibly well designed. I've never played the game where Terra exists, so I don't quite know. And I've also never played the game where Y'shtola exists. So Tidus, Cloud, you're my dudes. Let's get it. I'm probably going to buy one of these. And I think it's going to be the Tidus one. I think the Tidus one is actually a really creative design. And it looks like a lot of fun. Plus, the artwork's cool. And it's bright. Bant is making a comeback, y'all. Trust me. Believe me on this. All right. We are talking about the main set Final Fantasy cards now. And this is where Flash gave me some notes. And I just got to find the right button.
Yeah, whatever.
That was the one. Yep. I asked him what he thought, and he said,
yeah, whatever.
One more time?
Yeah, whatever.
So he definitely doesn't feel one way or the other. These are cool cards, but we haven't seen enough for Flash to say anything other than
yeah, whatever.
And then he followed up with,
I have seen the film Tar at least 15 times.
At least 15 times. So there was there was definitely like some opinion there. All right, the Final Fantasy main set, pretty cool. I also really, really like these. I'm not opposed to any of this. I do think this is dangerous to put these into standard. But they're, hopefully that's all made into, design and everything like that. Obviously, there are these alternate art cards like Yuffie Kisaragi, which is a reprint, a reskinning of Yuriko, Tiger's Shadow. So this is only available. These are only available in collector's boosters. Yuffie and the Dragon of Mount Gug. Dragon of Mount Gug. It's a reskin of Ancient Copper Dragon. So those two only exist in collector's boosters. They are not standard legal. Those are exclusively for Commander only. They don't cross over and become standard legal just because they're getting reprints. So first, let's start off with Cloud and Sephiroth. So Cloud, Planet's champion, and Sephiroth, Planet's heir. Cloud is a 3 red and a white legendary creature, same human soldier mercenary. During your turn, as long as Cloud is equipped, it has double strike and indestructible. Equip abilities you activate that target Cloud cost 2 less to activate. I really like the Sun Forger potential here. Seems pretty cool for a Boros commander. Obviously, this is what we've seen from Boros commanders in the past, and we've even seen Boros commanders with card advantage stapled to them. Like draw a card for each card equipped to this. And there's no traction. There is just no traction with those decks. So I don't really see it here. You can really build around it and it'd be fun. I think this would be a really cool Rule Zero partner, these two put together. Because Sephiroth, Planet's heir, 4 blue and a black human avatar soldier, is a 4/4 with vigilance that says when Sephiroth enters, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Sephiroth. So I think this is really cool. This is like a Massacre Worm type ability, so it just kills off anything that's just not even strong enough to stand up to Sephiroth, which is super cool. And then it gets even bigger. It gets even bigger. It doesn't even wipe your side of the board. It's just creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. So I think this is, if you were to Rule Zero and partner, put these together, their abilities don't even like really bounce off each other. It's totally fine. I think if someone were to approach me and ask, the artworks are together, right? But yeah, if you were to ask me, I'd be like, hell yeah, dude. Play your Final Fantasy out on the table right now. Let's get it. I want to feel Cloud and Sephiroth battling each other or battling with each other on the field. Yeah. All right. We have Saza Chocobo, Stiltskin, Moogle Merchant, which I think is going to be a pretty cool 1-drop. It's a legendary Moogle. The Chocobo is whatever. It's a landfall creature that gets a +1/+1 counter. Moogle, Merchant, Stiltskin. is a 1/2 lifelink. So this is interesting because we've played cards in cEDH in the past that are 1 white mana that, for 2 mana tap, it does a thing, right? Like Weathered Wayfarer. It's only 1 mana to tap, but you get a land if someone controls more, any land. So Stiltskin says you can pay 2, tap it, target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If they do, you draw a card. What? Card advantage in white? Wow, I can give somebody something that is negative for them. So, like, there's some pretty cool things to be done here. You can give, in cEDH, maybe not. I don't know. But you do enough brewing, you can make pretty much anything work. This isn't going to be a commander or really at all, but I think it's a really cool way to do in standard, like the Liliana's Contract or, what is that? Harmless Offering decks that give away things that say you lose the game. In standard, that could make this card viable. So we'll see how that happens. There are a lot of transforming cards in this set. A lot of them, like detailing the transformation of either a villain to hero or hero to villain, like Cecil Dark Knight turns to Cecil Redeemed Paladin. It's a 2/3 with Death Touch for 1 mana. And then whenever it deals damage, you lose that much life. Then if your life total is less than half of your starting life total, you untap Cecil and transform it. So then it turns into a 4/4 lifelink. Whenever it attacks, other attacking creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. So the payoff is for 1 black mana, you are going to be hemorrhaging life until you get that proc to transform, and then it turns into something that actually has a pretty great payoff. So I think that's a pretty cool card. Great design. Now this, Sin, Spira's Punishment, was a card I was hoping would be a mythic. I was hoping it would be way, way better. I have a huge amount of respect for Sin, okay? Final Fantasy X was like my favorite one of all time. But for 4 black, green, and blue, you get a legendary Leviathan Avatar. That's a 7/7 flyer. I just wish its ability... I just wanted it to do more. Whenever Sin enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random. Then, create a tap token that's a copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, repeat this process. So there's definitely a build around here. Do I think it's impossible to build? No. I think it'd be a really fun build. But it... God, I hate that. The random nature of it. How many lands do you put out there? How many lands do you run a high land count so that you can potentially hit more like token lands onto the battlefield? Like what do you do? You're already at 7 mana. You already got there. How much more mana do you need? I don't know. Time will tell. I think it's like Sin's super cool in the game itself. Hoping that I'm wrong about this and it just ends up being this super cool reanimation payoff that it creates a really rewarding gameplay experience. I think that's what most of these cards do if you're familiar with Final Fantasy. So we also have Garland, Knight of Cornelia, a red and a black legendary human knight. This is an uncommon, by the way. So this is an uncommon. Red and a black, 3/2, that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, surveil 1. So Dragon Rage Channeler for 1 more mana as a 3/2 does not need to attack, but also does not gain haste and flying or whatever. So, but then you can pay 7 mana, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield transformed. Activate only as a sorcery. And then it turns into Chaos, the Endless, which is a 5/5 flyer that when Chaos dies, put it onto the bottom of its owner's library. So the payoff, I think, can win games in draft or sealed or whatever. But for a 3/2 for 2 mana, I think this is like kind of a strong uncommon, right? This could be a card you play in PEDH, Pauper EDH. So don't sleep on it. Could be good. Surveilling 1 when you cast a non-creature spell is not nothing. Emmett Selch Unsundered. I have no idea what this is from. It's an Emmett Selch is an Elder Wizard that has it's a 2/4 with Vigilance that says whenever it enters or attacks, draw a card, then discard a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform it into Hades, Sorcerer of Eld, And this is where it gets cool. I don't know. I think this can be really powerful in standard, potentially other formats, because putting 14 cards in the yard, not that hard. But it says it turns into a 6/6 with vigilance. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. What? If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. What? Yeah. So it's like a Yogg's will on a permanent that just during your turn, hey man, just play some, your graveyard. It's yours again. Play it, whatever. So I don't know. Could be cool. Could be fun. Now we have the second most interesting card, but the most interesting concept, I think. And I'm excited to see what exists at Rare and what exists at Mythic with this new card type mechanic. They're summons. And we all know they exist in Final Fantasy. You have Shiva, you have Ifrit, you got Valifor, but 3 and 2 blue, you can summon Shiva as an enchantment creature Saga elemental. So creature that is also a Saga. And when I read that, I was like, wait, don't you sacrifice Sagas after the third one? Why would I do that? And then I read it, and then I read the rules text, and yeah, you do sacrifice it after the third one, so the payoff has got to be good. But again, the flavor is so on point here. It's so perfect. Shiva, summons don't stick around forever in Final Fantasy. They come in, sometimes they wallop right away, and then they just slowly take hits until they die, or they take a hit and die immediately from whatever beastly beast you're fighting. But yeah, this is for the first trigger, as soon as it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. Put a stun counter on it. And then the second one is the same ability. And then the third one is draw a card for each tapped creature your opponents control. So you are guaranteed to draw 2, unless your opponent has some sort of untappy shenanigans and the stun counters get removed. But you're guaranteed, once you get to that third one, as long as it's still hanging around, you'll get 2 cards. So, it's an uncommon. This is definitely not powerful by any means, but the design space. Wow. I think this is rad. I am more than anything excited I hope that Tidus, this is a great card for Tidus. Holy crap, this concept for Tidus. Wow. I wonder what Yuna will do, and I wonder what colors Yuna will be in if she can also exist in this commander deck, the Tidus Yuna's Guardian. So, but hitting whenever one or more creatures you control with counters on them, this has counters on it. It's a Saga counter, a lore counter. Deals combat damage to a player. You may draw a card and proliferate. You may. So also, you have a little control over this. Do this only once each turn. What? That's crazy. So you can actually hit, or you can hit, draw, proliferate, take this to the second, or because it's going to have sickness right away. You're on that second one, you get that third payoff. Your summon goes away. Sure, fine, but you get your third payoff right then and there, the second turn that it comes in. And sometimes that can just be enough to tilt the game. So, or break parity or whatever. Really cool design. Like I said, very excited to see, because I'm a huge enchantment player, enchantment lover. Would love to see where this goes. Next, we have Tonberry. If you've never played the games, Tonberry is a really funny character. You have to kill it before it has a chance to attack, because this creature enters with a stun counter on it. Very flavorful, because they're very lethargic, lazy creatures. But then it says, during your turn, this creature has first strike and death touch. When Tonberry attacks you, if it touches you, it's basically an insta kill. The thing just knocks you out. So they can tank some hits, but you got to kill it before it has a chance to attack. Otherwise, it'll just murk you. It'll put you in the ground 6 feet under. So I think it's really cool design. For 1 black mana, you get a 2/1 that on your turn has first strike and death touch. So it can't really block. It'll die, right? But when it attacks, god dang, you got to block it with 3 creatures if you want to kill it. I think that's really cool. We got Jumbo Cactuar. This is probably the coolest card from the set. It's the one that everybody seems to be going wild about. And I can see why. For 5 and 2 green, you get a creature plant that has an ability called 10,000 Needles. Whenever this creature attacks, it gets plus 9,999 and plus 0 until end of turn. You did not mishear me. Plus 9,999. So its power will be over 9,000. It will be 10,000 until end of turn. So a lot of people are saying, oh, just Chandra's Ignition the table after, swinging with it. There are a few other things people were saying. I was just like, oh my God, this is gross. There's so many things that are just like deal its power, damage equal to its power to target thing. So people will try like hell. I'm glad this isn't a legendary creature, but people will try like hell to make this thing work, and I am here for it. The Menace and the MoxStars podcast. If you forgot where you're at, forgot to give Don Cheadle a shout out. What's up, Don Cheadle? Woo, woo, woo. By supporting the show, you put clothes on Don Cheadle's back. The Don Cheadle that exists in the MoxStars Dr. Pepper Lounge, where Ravenlift also exists. You can support us at the $50 tier like Ravenlift. Get a hat every single month. Stick around for a year. Get a 101 bucket hat. Flash would have been pissed if I didn't mention that. I'm so glad I did.
Yeah, whatever.
All right. Yeah, I forgot where I was at. I got really into that. We also have the last card from Final Fantasy, which is Side Quest. So they have these little things. Catch a Fish is the first one that we see. 2 and a white enchantment. Beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature card, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you put a card in your hand this way, create a food and then transform this enchantment. Becomes a land called Cooking Campsite, where you can tap it, add a white mana, pay 3, tap, sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. This is pretty cool. This is like, it's definitely an uncommon. This will definitely be that like late game card that wins you the draft, or like wins you games in sealed and draft and whatever construct. I don't think it's going to be like a constructed card, but I do think this is a cool uncommon, very flavorful. I'm again very curious to see where like the rare slots have like side quests, or even if there's a mythic side quest, would be kind of rad. Like there are definitely some quests you go on in Final Fantasy, and then you just end up on this like, whoa, what am I doing? Saving the freaking world. Yeah. So there are also some cool different artworks that have been shown. I'm not sure if Mythic Spoiler has them, but yeah, they're doing like a woodblock print for some of these. The Yuffie one, or like the Dragon of Mount Goog is like our like original artworks from the final. They're original artworks, cool stuff. But yeah. This is definitely going to be a really cool set. I'm not exactly like jumping at pre-orders, because if there's one thing that the community has already started complaining about with the set, is not the design, or not with how the lack of information or the lack of cards revealed. We will get more at MagicCon, which if you're listening to this and you're at MagicCon with me, come find me. Come find the Mountain of Dr. Pepper. I'll be there. I'll be playing Magic. Come play Magic with me. But we'll learn more at MagicCon about this set, which is going to be pretty rad. I am excited to see more. But like I said, I'm not jumping at the gun, or like to go out and buy. I just don't buy cards really in general. But yeah. This hasn't sold me quite yet. like I said, maybe the precon, maybe the Tidus precon. Sounds fun. But that has been the major complaint so far with the set is the price. Because this is a standard set, people were very much expecting the price to be, standard. Literally the first link I clicked on said, Final Fantasy prices are ridiculous. Yeah, they are. $70 for Commander decks. $200 for a play booster box. $455 for collector's boosters. Then your LGS adds on, what they deem is, what they want, whatever they want to make, right? It's ridiculous because it is a set that's going into standards. Like, sets have never been this expensive if they're going or if they're designed for and are going into standard. This is a extremely high barrier of entry. So we're really, I don't know. This isn't a premium product. They might have put in a lot of work. They might have put in a lot of time. Sure, right? People literally just look at this as a set of Magic cards, whether or not they have Final Fantasy on the face. If someone's not into that and they're just into Magic cards, there's no justifying the change or the increase in price. So they're treating it like it's a premium set when there's no justification for it. Like, we just looked at all the cards. I just read them all. Do you want me to read them again? I will. Okay. First, we got Cloud, Planet's Champion, and Sephiroth, Planet's Heir. And if somebody wants to partner these together, rule 0 that ish onto the field, I'm cool. I'd love to see these guys battle side by side. No, you don't want to hear me reading them all again? They're not that strong. They're not that powerful. There's no reason that this should be a premium set. It's not like they're reprinting Mox Diamond. It's reserve list. I don't know. It's not like they're reprinting, Thassa's Oracle or Underworld Breach or anything like that in the standard or in this set. So yeah, there's no like premium reason or any reason to charge a premium amount for new cards like that aren't clearly going to be far stronger than what we have. But maybe that's what's yet to be seen. Maybe we are going to see some like really crazy powerful ish, and that'll justify the set. There will be chase cards. I promise you, there will be chase cards. We're already seeing some, like here with Yuffie and the Dragon of Mount Goog. So those will sell collector's boosters. It will be $100 and plus for a foiled Dragon of Mount Goog. It's getting harder to say. And then Yuffie will be that like chase for Yuriko players. I think that will be, I'm not sure it'll be the go-to, but if you're a Final Fantasy lover and play Yuriko, hey, this card's for you. So yeah, that's the only complaint. I think we'll be complaining how much it warps standard after the whole set is released, after Wizards gives all of the content creators access, or early access or whatever, and they start showcasing what is possible. They do it every set. There's nothing to be shocked about anymore. But there's definitely going to be some crazy stuff printed in this that we just haven't seen yet. But hopefully we'll see more at MagicCon. And if you're listening to this and you've met me at MagicCon, I'm super excited. I'm so glad to have met you. Did we play games together? I sure hope so. All right. I hope I played... You know what? I hope I played Mona Lisa's Snake Circus against you. God, this Apatra deck is so much fun. I can't believe I ever took it apart. Anyway. Flash, you ready to get out of here? I'm going to take that as a yes. This has been another episode of the MoxStars podcast. I hope you enjoyed Menace solo flying through the ether into your earwaves, your eardrums through the airwaves. And if you'd like to support the show, you can find us on YouTube. where you can like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more notifications. Support us there. Help us to get to 500 subscribers. The coolest show on the internet for Magic the Gathering and Dr. Pepper in tandem with the 23 crisp flavors. The show where we talk about Don Cheadle, Dr. Pepper, Now Guy Gonna Do, Willie Send Us Peeps, all the tiny bones in your face, Vin Diesel, he's got whirring gears in his mouth. How else could he have played the Iron Giant or been the voice actor for the Iron Giant? There's no other explanation for it. Okay? That's the stuff we talk about here. And Magic cards. And Dr. Pepper. You can also support us on all major podcasting platforms by giving us a 5-star review. Make us look super duper cool. Share us with your friends. Currently, I was looking at the RSS, or that's a platform we use to distribute the podcast, and I was looking at our distribution map, right? And there is a crazy amount of people in Germany out there listening to the podcast. So thank you. Danke. I know how to speak German. Wunderbar. Well, thank you all so much for your support. You can also support us via Patreon by becoming an official Pepperhead. For $3 a month, you can become an official Pepperhead. Have your name turned Dr. Pepper Red on the Discord server. You can also support us at the Cherry Vanilla Pepperhead tier, like Maybe Anthony, KB, Mono Greg, Jacob Hibbard, Tommy Cypher, K Mr. K, Will Rule. And you can also support us at the 2-liter tier, like Definitely Jeremy, Pool Boy Barry, and UWP Quirt, and Aaron Becker. So thank you all for your support. It truly is a pleasure to make this show for you guys. No other words. Any other words would taint the meaning behind that. You know what I mean? Like, if I kept talking and saying, like, I appreciate things. Your love is what I appreciate the most. And thank you. Yeah, it's getting weird now. This is the MoxStars podcast. Catch us next time as we talk about more things. The results of me whooping everyone's butt at MagicCon with all these sweet decks I'm taking. And I will reveal the secret custom cards that I've been working on next week's show. So look forward to that. Thank you all for checking us out, and peace. We're out of here.